when the iqamah is given, he again flees. So the saying of the adhan or the iqamah is also means driving away the jinn for an instant.
This is for a Muslim believer.
Yeah, this is specifically for a Muslim believer. However, if a person, for example, is seeking Islam, and they do have some sort of consciousness of the oneness of Allah, and they are seeking out the truth, it is possible that they may use these and they may work for them also. Because ultimately it is a question of sincerity of one seeking refuge in God that will provide for him or her, a way, a protection.
Can jinns make a person sick, Brother Bida?
Yes.
I mean, can they cause this person to be emotionally disturbed, emotionally, out of his mind? Can this person have headaches? Start seeing things? Can this person become, sick with no known medical cure?
Sure. There have been many cases, those people who are involved in exorcism. I've reported many cases of this. I've visited exorcists in various parts of the Muslim world and discussed with them the different cases that they've had, observed some of the cases myself, talked with some of the patients.
Someone who takes out
people who are involved in removing the jinn or possessing spirits from individuals. People who are Muslims who are using Muslim methodology of reciting Quran over the person. And they have reported, that this is the case. And actually there are instances, even in the time of the Prophet, may Allah peace and blessings be upon him, where people were brought to the companions of the Prophet who were, in a state of madness or semi-madness, or people who were ailing, and they were given verses of the Quran, or even Surah Al-Fatiha, also the first chapter of the Quran. This was used by the Quran, by the companions of the Prophet, may Allah peace and blessings be upon him, recited over those who were sick because of these spiritual forces, jinn, and they became well from it. So we know that the jinn can affect a person physically, could affect a person mentally. A person who goes insane, this could be a result of spiritual possession, jinn possession. Not to say that every insane person is a person who is possessed by the jinn, but this could also be among the cases. Of course, relative to God, a person who loses his senses is not held to account anymore, for whatever he or she says or does. But we know there are cases that were brought to the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. One woman, for example, who came and expressed to the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, that she would fall under possession and would take off her clothes. So she asked if he would pray to God and have this condition of her relieved, the possessing forces being held back or driven out. And he said, I can do that, but if you are patient, you will earn paradise for yourself. So she asked that he prayed that she not remove her clothes, because of course it was something very embarrassing. So he prayed for her, and that's part of it stopped. But the possession part is a trial for her, that if she bore, that the reward that the Prophet promised her was paradise. But this is the case where she was physically coming under this influence, and it caused her to do this. Normally we call such people exhibitionists or etc. They have this compulsive urge comes over them at a certain time to take off all their clothes and just expose themselves. Not to say every exhibitionist comes out of this category. There are some who are just perverts, who want to get their jollies off by doing these type of things. But normally speaking, there are cases of people who are overcome by this urge, and in fact we believe this is a form of possession which takes place at a certain point in time. And it may come in the form of illnesses which doctors cannot determine the source of. It may come in the form of epilepsy, seizures, epileptic fits. As a matter of fact, the medical profession has admitted that there is a large portion of epileptic cases which are caused by by factors unknown to them. So they divide their cases into two categories: that which have biological causes, which are known, and those, which is the larger portion, which have no known causes. They just appear. And what you find is that those people who are involved in exorcism are most successful in this category.
Very interesting. So then, in response to that question, I mean, can jinns make a person sick? I mean, it's obvious that this has been documented medically throughout history, and this is still a phenomenon that is very much in existence today within the medical profession throughout the world, and within religious activities as well.
Of course, there's one thing one should keep in mind here, that the process of exorcism occurs in all of the various religious systems. You will find people who are involved in various forms of idolatry, Buddhism, Hinduism, all kinds of tree worship, all kinds of things, exorcising people, and doing so successfully. The explanation that one would naturally have to give to this, how does this take place? If exorcism involves removing the evil forces from a person, and this is something by the aid of God, does God aid those who are involved in idolatry also? It's a question that's often asked. The fact is that we must remember that the jinn or the evil forces may leave a person willingly or unwillingly. If idolatry, the belief in idolatry, what we call shirk, is confirmed in the presence of one who is possessed, by the people around or by the person who is himself or herself possessed, then that is sufficient. The jinn may leave that person and go on to somebody else. So if a priest comes and he says, in the name of Buddha or in the name of Jesus Christ, he makes the sign of the cross, he sprinkles holy water, whatever, and the person becomes cured, it's not because this has actually cured that person, but because their idolatrous beliefs have been confirmed. And this is what the jinn wants from them in any case. Whereas in the case of the recitation of the Quran, the jinn does not leave because it is pleased. It leaves because it is forced to leave. So you will find people who are involved in voodoo, various forms of devil worship, satanic worship, who will come and apparently cure people. Why? Because they are in collusion with these evil forces. They may even be the ones who direct the evil forces to certain people. So these people will end up having to come to them, and they appear to cure the people, and then those people become their followers. Those people are drawn into their circle. So it's a means of trapping people also. And the apparent cures are not really cures, but just the jinn or evil jinn leaving, having succeeded in what it was attempting to do.
Very interesting. Okay. Can jinns eventually cause the death, the demise of a person, of people? Do they have this power, this ability to do?
I don't think so. I think from what we have understood from the teachings of the Quran and the Sunnah, that this will not, the jinn will not in and of itself cause the death deliberately. It may happen accidentally, like a person falls into a seizure and swallows his tongue. It's not that the jinn is pushing the tongue down the throat, but in that state of seizure, the person may accidentally die. Right? People who get into epileptic seizures choke on their own tongues and die. Right?
Suffocation. Yeah.
Or, a person may be in a particular place or position and become overcome and fall from a height and kill themselves. It may happen in that kind of a fashion. Or a person may become so despondent, giving up all kind of hope and kill themselves. You see, not being able to bear this anymore. They feel they can't bear it anymore, or whatever. They commit suicide. To you as an outsider, it may appear that they have been driven to this, and it's like they've been possessed and they were killed due to that possession. But in fact, it's the person not being able to hang in there and deal with what they're affected by, and they taking their own lives. But as far as I have understood from the teaching of the Quran and from the Sunnah, it is not possible for the jinn to cause a death unless a person has killed a jinn. Because we have an instant in the time of the Prophet, may Allah peace and blessings be upon him, where one of the companions killed a jinn that was in a snake form, or attempted to. He wounded the jinn, and the jinn killed him. They both died. So it is possible in such cases. But as a norm, we would say it would not be so.
The same then can be said of a black cat biting or possessing, going for the jugular vein of a human being, something to that extent, and causing the physical demise of a person. A cat symbolizing one of the mentioned.
Or a dog,
Or a dog,
yes. I mean, it's possible, in this, where they're equally able to, one may harm the other may harm one, this one-on-one kind of situation. I guess it is possible. Where it is a case of possession, where to say now that the jinn may take over your body and cause cancer to kill you, or to cause the cancer to develop and you die from that. This is the type of thing that we say we do not believe so, because Allah said that they have no control over us. In that sense, they cannot control us to the point of killing us. But in one of the other forms, as a snake or as a dog or whatever, that they may attack us, under some circumstances and kill us, just as we may kill them.
How can I can cite the case to you, Brother Bilal, of a person who accepted Islam. More specifically, this is the case of a young lady who became a Muslim. She was at one time a confirmed atheist, according to her. She became Muslim, but prior to her becoming Muslim and being what she considered to be an atheist, she used to see certain visions. She used to hear and listen to certain sounds, to certain forms of communication that she was unable to have explained to her intellectually. And this is not the average young lady type. I mean, this is someone who is highly educated, developed, mature, and the same goes for her sister. Okay, her blood sister claimed to have seen her cousin, their cousin, who was killed in an automobile accident, and their beloved cousin used to come to them in their dreams, apparently while asleep, and as well as during non-sleeping activities. They used to talk to each other, or so they claim. Now, when one of the young ladies became a Muslim, she accepted Islam, the true religion of Almighty God. She stopped. These activities were lessened or almost became nullified or nil. Whereas her sister continues to this very day to see these images, these visions, and to hear these sounds and forms of communication. What do you attribute that to? I mean, how is that possible? How is that explained?
Well, this could very well be a case of the Jinn utilizing personal weaknesses. These sisters, for example, loved or dearly loved this cousin of theirs. So that puts them in a state of weakness by appearing in the form of the cousin. It keeps them attached to the dead, and keeps them in a state of imbalance, because half they will not be believing this. It will seem something unbelievable, but yet it is real to them. So they're in a state of mental imbalance, and it is in this kind of a state that they may be drawn into idolatry. Even the sister, for example, as an atheist, because the atheist, it's possible to get out of that and get into Islam. This is a way of trying to draw that sister along with the other one. I don't know what she was the atheist also, or she was a Catholic, or what was she?
A Catholic by profession, by name, but not one of a serious practice.
But it could have been a means of trying to draw them back into full-fledged Catholicism, maybe because of the fact that there were certain signs indicating that they were moving towards what may have been the truth. Of course, when they failed with the atheist sister who became a Muslim, then they tried to concentrate their efforts, say, on the sister who was not, so possibly she would not take that path also, hoping that she would reach out to one of the other voodoo type channels, or spiritualist channels, which involve some form of idolatry. So the attacks or the influence may have ceased for the sister who accepted Islam temporarily. There's no guarantee that it may not come back again. It's one thing we should understand. That just because one accepts Islam doesn't mean automatically it ceases totally. But the likelihood is a lot less. Their ability to affect such a person is much less. That if they came back because that person believes in God and they trust in God, they turn to God, it will tend to ward them off, keep them off. Whereas the other sister who has no protection as such, she would be subject to these influences until it was certain. Especially if she, for example, has seen her sister become a Muslim, she may be thinking about becoming a Muslim. So these influences may actually even increase to try to discourage her from taking that possible path. So we could say this is a possible explanation. I can't say that that's what it is. One would have to look more into the circumstances, see what the state of the family, the parents, what type of situation was there in the house that they were living in. It's a lot of factors that one would also have to take into account. But it's definitely, these visions are something which people experience all around the world. My mother, for example, just told me about seeing somebody in the living room in her apartment, and she was in there just recently, a few months back. And she wanted to get a hold of me, call me to make some prayers for her, whatever. And when she wasn't able to get a hold of me, so she made a cross and put it over her bedroom door, and sure enough, it stopped. Once she fell back into whole-scale Christianity and Christian Trinitarian idolatrous concepts, then the process stopped. When I tried to explain that to her, that it didn't stop because you used the cross, but not because using of the cross caused it to stop, but because when you used the cross and confirmed what it wanted for you, because you were maybe reflecting on Islam and the truth and the oneness of God and these kind of things, that this is just to sink you a little deeper into these kind of beliefs, to make it much more difficult for you to get out of the idolatry, even though all around you people are professing, the true belief in one God, which you in the depths of your heart know to be true.
And to this day, several months later, did Mama reflect, after that?
Well, I tried to give that explanation to her, but of course, she doesn't want to hear that explanation, right? So what she wants to is just good enough for her is that the tried and proven cross, has done the trick. So just pray for her, man. That's how it is.
Brother Bilal, in continuing the case of this sister who accepted Islam after being a confirmed, according to her, atheist, she has also shared with us that while her mother, being in a state of sickness, in a state of grave pain, she's ailing. She's currently, it's been confirmed that she has cancer. And she's in a great deal of pain and so forth and so on. Now, one of the things that she, as a Muslim, wanted to do was to take away from her house the statues and images and candle altars and things of that sort that a typical Catholic household possesses, and much, much more. Even her non-Muslim blood sister, agreed to do this as an effort to purify the house spiritually. Her mother reneged. Her mother wished not to do this. Let her, if she's going to die, let her die with all her crosses or her candles or her images and so forth. Now, is it possible that maybe the Jinn want to make her to believe that those statues, or that these statues can do something, possess some sort of cure, some sort of pure power, some sort of ailment, some sort of prescription that modern or current medical science has yet to do?
Sure. As I mentioned before, you will find cases where the statues may speak to the people. You had the case of some statues where it would start to weep at certain points in time. You had one in Ireland where it started to shake. A statue of Virgin Mary would start to rock back and forth.
And in Portugal,
maybe weeping in Portugal. In Yugoslavia, they had visions. I mean, the point is that these factors will be there. These are means of encouragement to people who are involved in idolatry to hold on firmly to their idols. Of course, I would not doubt that this whispering would be there in the mind of the sick mother. That if you give these things up, you will be damned to hell, and those type of fearful thoughts will be put into people's mind, especially if they're on their deathbed or
helpless, they're in pain. So that the understanding basically is that one should have the clear-cut vision that death, life, and death comes from Allah, from the one true God. That cure for any ailment comes from the one true God, Allah, and Allah alone, as opposed to statues, man-made created objects.
Even as a Muslim, when you take medicine, it is incorrect for one to believe that the taking of the medicine is going to cure them.
Say like a cough, for cough syrup,
whatever,
aspirin,
anything. Taking any medical treatment, it is actually incorrect for a Muslim to believe that this treatment is going to cure them. they have to have the belief that God will cure them through the medium of it. So when they take it, they should really be reflecting on God's power to cure them. And when they are cured, not, thanking the doctor and putting all the power to the pills, but thanking God. This is the correct belief, although most people are not really aware of it. This is how when one takes a pill, he says, "Bismillah, in the name of Allah, in the name of God, ask God to cure you through this medium." Even when you go on the operation table, the doctor, he is performing the operation, but it is Allah who determines whether that operation is successful or not. Because how many skillful doctors get on the table and their patients die for reasons unknown to them, after having done the same operation they've been doing for years, and people seemingly to get well from these operations, yet there are cases where people die. Because it's not ultimately their operation which cures that person, that saves that person. It's Allah. If Allah has destined the time to die, and the time is in the course of that operation, well then that's when the person is going to die, no matter what is done. But of course we don't know. So we as individuals are obliged to use whatever means God has given us, of technology, etc., to the best degree that we can. But at the same time believing that it is Allah, it is God, who will cure us or allow us to be cured or not.
So everything gets back to, once again, as it always does, to intention. It's the medium, understanding that the medium that modern science, modern technology has available today is not the end all. It is not the cure all. It is a means by which we use at our disposal to reflect upon the greatness of the Creator.
Well, it's a means which God has submitted for us to take pleasure in the things that He has given us, while recognizing that it is from Him, and glorifying Him even more. Because the more technology we have is the more that Allah has blessed us, and it means the more that we are required to thank Him. Because God has made everything in this universe submitted to us as a blessing. But at the same time, we have a duty to Him to submit ourselves to Him who created us. Submit our will to His will, because He knows what's best for us. He knows the forces that can harm us, whether physical or spiritual, and He knows that which will help us. So by submitting our wills to His will, we choose the way which is best for us in this life. See, the mistake that people hold, that what has been commanded by God is sort of like a burden. It's making life difficult for us, but in fact not. It's really a release. It's freedom. When we submit our will to the will of God, we then liberate ourselves from submission to the will of mankind, of creation, submitting ourselves to our own desires. When we submit ourselves to God, we liberate ourselves from the material world.
With Abu Amina Bilal Phillips, author of various Islamic books, including Ibn Taymiyyah's essay on the Jinn, or demons. To begin with, a first question: who are the Jinns, Brother Bilal? How are they defined?
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, salatu wa salam ala Rasul Kareem, wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. All praise due to Allah, and may Allah's peace and blessings be on His last Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and on all those who follow the path of righteousness until the last day. The Jinn represent one of the orders of spiritual beings as defined by Allah in the Quran and by the last Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his Sunnah, or his pronouncements. From the Islamic point of view, there are three orders of spiritual beings: the angels, the soul, human souls, and the Jinn. The angels, the Prophet explained, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, were created from light. The angels were created from light. Man created from clay, the element, the earth. And the Jinn were created from fire, from an elemental fire, not necessarily the fires that we know in this life, but a fire as defined by God. Not that they are and continue to be fire, just as the angels are not light in and of themselves, just as man isn't in and of himself clay. He has changed, though his origin is from those elements, he is not still clay. So similarly, the angels are not looked at as being light per se now, but that is the origin of their creation. And similarly, the Jinn, their origin is that of fire. Now, the angels, according to the descriptions in the Quran, do not disobey God. They are beings whom Allah has created to serve certain purposes in the universe. They fulfill His command. They do not disobey Him in any way at all. On the other hand, the Jinn and mankind have a free will. Allah has given them a free will and ability to choose between good and evil. Allah has made mankind superior to the Jinn. This is Allah's choice. Just as within the other created beings of this world, He has made certain beings superior to other beings. Man has been made superior to the Jinn. However, both have the ability to choose between right and wrong, and will be judged on the day of judgment based on the choices they made, and will receive either paradise or punishment in hell, continual, at the end of this world.
Are there good jinns? Are there bad jinns? What is the difference, if so?
Well, as I stated, the Jinn, just like men, have a choice between good and evil. So it means naturally that there are believers amongst the Jinn as there are believers amongst mankind, and disbelievers amongst the Jinn as there are disbelievers amongst mankind. They may follow the various religions that exist amongst men, or may have religions of their own. And those who are believers will be righteous to varying degrees, just as believers amongst humans are righteous to varying degrees. Some are more righteous than others. But all being from Allah's creation are capable of making errors. So amongst the Jinn you have believers who are very good, very righteous, others who are mediocre, others who are sinful, and you have those who are disbelievers, who may do certain acts which may appear to us to be good, but their intent is evil. Now, according to the Quranic teaching, the angels were commanded to bow to Adam. And there was amongst the angels a jinn by the name of Iblis, who was commonly known as Satan, who had been elevated to this position due to certain qualities which God had given him. However, when he was commanded to bow along with the angels, he refused to bow. And his argument was that he was superior to man, who was created from clay when he was created from fire. And so his pride led him to disobey God. And it is because of this that pride is considered the original sin from an Islamic point of view. It is what led Satan to disobey God and cause himself to be cursed eternally. And man, similarly, when he falls under the influence of pride, turns away from God and may disobey God and cause himself also to be damned eternally. So the Prophet, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, had said that no one who has a mustard seed's worth of pride in his heart will enter paradise.
Brother Bilal, in what form would you say that these jinns, the good ones and the bad ones, appear to the human senses? Do they appear only at night, only Friday nights, Saturday nights? I mean, how do they appear? In what sense?
In general, the jinn are invisible to human eyes. As a norm, the majority of the jinn are invisible. Though some of them take physical forms which have been defined by the Prophet Muhammad, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him. They may take some relatively permanent physical forms, like that of snake, certain snakes. Also, the black dog, the dog which is completely black. These are amongst the forms that the Prophet defined as being common among the physical forms that jinns may appear in. However, of the jinns, and you have three basic classes that the Prophet, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, defined. There are certain jinns which are limited to certain areas of the earth. They are not able to move around beyond the area that they exist in.
For example, east and west?
No, wherever they are on the earth. There are another kind which are able to move around, and there's some which live basically on an atmospheric level, in the air. Right? There are three sort of stages or states that that they exist in. Those obviously are amongst those which are on the ground, and those which have some of these animal forms. But the other jinns also, who are normally invisible, may appear in human form or as images, statues, etc. They may enter into statues or places and make sounds from these places. They may also enter into human dreams. Prophet Muhammad, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, said that dreams are of three types. You have one type which is from God, true dreams, wherein God shows us something of the future and it comes true. Either directly, in the sense that we see a very clear image which sometime later we end up living, or indirectly, where we see something which is somewhat vague and it goes to our subconscious, and then a certain circumstance arises, or we go to a certain place and we have this feeling, haven't we been here before? Haven't I done this before? It's called, in English, from the French, déjà vu. Now, this is also a product of this true dreams, which God gives to man as a means of showing him that there are powers beyond him, that God is there. Because no matter how an atheist or one who denies the existence of God may feel about the non-existence of God, this is clear evidence to him when he has such dreams or experiences such experiences, that there are forces beyond him which he cannot put his finger on. And this leads him to realization of God. The other category of dreams are the regurgitation of your daily affairs. You read a novel, a detective novel, and you're dreaming about being that detective. You have met somebody that day, and then that in your dream you're discussing with that person, traveling with the person, or whatever. This is a normal pattern which also takes place in the dreams. And there's a third category, which are satanic dreams, where Satan, the evil jinn, may come in and influence your dreams, where you may find yourself going to do things which are prohibited, things which you know are wrong. You end up being involved in them in your dreams. Or you find yourself, experiencing very fearful, very horrible type dreams, which puts a kind of a fear in you, where you come out of those dreams, trying to seek some kind of solace or some kind of support, mechanism which may not be according to the will of God. You may end up into idolatry to seek some kind of support. Or there may be dreams which give you some kind of idea that you are superior to others, or that you are God. So these type of dreams may come, the satanic ones may come in a number of different ways. But ultimately, they are the dreams which lead you to sinful acts, either on a physical level, where you commit certain physical acts which are prohibited, or on a spiritual level, where you make certain claims for yourself, or you get yourself involved in forms of worship which involve worshiping God's creation instead of worshiping God. So the jinn may appear in physical form, in the form of certain animals, or they may appear in the form of visions, where people will see a vision of the Christ child, or Jesus on the cross, various things like this. Or they may come into the dreams. But the main purpose of the appearance of the jinn, especially in the form of illusions, of what they call visions, or in the dreams, is to draw man into shirk, into idolatry, some form of idolatry. This is the common thread, because just as an evil person is not satisfied or happy until he has drawn everybody around him into evil, similarly amongst the jinn, those that are evil will try to draw human beings into idolatry, the ultimate evil.
What can they eventually do to the human mind? I mean, to the human being. Do they have a power, the physical power, to make someone do something that they normally would not do? What is the ultimate power, let us say, of these creatures?
Well, God has said in the Quran very clearly that, in reference to the jinn, evil jinn, that they had no power over man, no ultimate power over man. They only invited and we obeyed. Whispered, through the whispering, as in the last chapter of the Quran, where we seek refuge in God, the whisperer comes into our heart, the whisperer is equal to us. Through the whisperings, it may be from the evil among mankind making direct suggestions, or through our dreams. It could come in a variety of different ways.
Can you recite that chapter in the Quran? You said there's a direct reference to these jinns in the chapter of the Holy Quran. Can you recite that for everyone?
الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس, the one which whispers into the hearts of mankind, من الجنة والناس, from among the jinn as well as from among mankind. So these evil influences, whisperings of evil which call us to sin, it may be from the world of the jinn, or it could very well be from the world of men. This is why you will find in the Quran where God refers to shayateen al-jinni wal-ins, the satans or the devils amongst the jinn and amongst mankind.
So that clearly indicates that there's another form of being other than the human being. Correct?
Sure.
I mean, there's another form of life other than the life of human beings as we know it.
Sure, you have the chapter called the Jinn in the Quran. There's a chapter which speaks about the Jinn.
The demons.
Yeah, well, demons actually is not a fair translation of the term Jinn. But generally speaking, from a Christian point of view, they tend to look at all of the spiritual forces outside of man, generally speaking, outside of the angels, being demons. Whereas, so this may be a loose translation of the term jinn. However, it is only the evil amongst them that we may really call demons. From a Christian point of view, they consider the souls which, or the spirits which may possess a man or possess a place or whatever, these are from living beings who died under tragic circumstances or whatever. And their souls may wander around the earth and possess other people, whatever. However, from an Islamic point of view, this is not the case. The person, when he dies, his soul cannot no longer influence this world. He is cut off. He enters into a state known as the barzakh. This is a state between the life of this world and until the judgment. He's in a state, a suspended state, where he no longer has any influence in this world.
Suspended animation, maybe?
Well, not that, in a sense, but he's just in a suspended state, limbo, we could call it.
Until
the judgment, the soul, is reunited with the body, and he's brought to judgment, and then goes to either heaven or hell, depending on some of his deeds, the grace of God.
Okay, then. So, who are affected by jinn? Every human being, every form of creation, ants, cucarachas, roaches, flies, mosquitoes, animals. Who is affected directly and or indirectly by jinns?
Well, we know that the human beings may be affected by the jinn. In terms of the other animals of creation, we do, from reports that have been made, that that the jinn may enter into, just as they enter into solids, and this is mentioned in the Quran, where after Prophet Musa alayhi salam had passed over the Red Sea, and his people, remember, he left them to go and seek audience with God, and the people who stayed behind had made this golden calf, right? And the calf started to low. It started to talk to them. You see, which, as if this calf had come alive. The evil jinn had entered into the calf and, created an impression for the people, as they do around the world. People who deal in idolatry, they will tell you about going to the statues and the statues talking to them. People who believe in the Virgin Mary, whatever, they have their statues and they stay there long enough with the statue, and then the statue starts to talk to them. These are the influences of the jinn. So if they can enter into physical beings, which are, say, created objects, carved objects, etc., we don't doubt that this can take place in the case of animals. You have a number of cases where, for example, like Son of Sam, who had executed a number of people there, in New York City. When he was put to trial, he said that this black dog used to come to him, used to tell him to go and kill. He used to talk to him. Right? Of course, the psychiatrists considered the man just to be, insane. And they didn't give any weight to the possibility that the dog could have been actually communicating with him, talking to him in that sense, or that really a being could have been inside talking to the dog, because modern psychiatry has totally ruled out the supernatural. Whereas, from an Islamic perspective, Islamic point of view, there have been many cases recorded, where the jinn may enter into birds or other animals, and this may be a means of drawing people into various forms of idolatry. Some people who claim, for example, sainthood in the past, who were actually evil individuals. I mean, they would create impressions on the people. For example, they would go and the birds, would give salams to them, for example, would greet them. And of course, the people who were with them would be just awed totally. This is a clear sign that this man is a man of God. He's, a man close to God if he's not God himself. You see, in this way, people were drawn into idolatry. So the jinn may affect human beings from all categories, people who are involved in shirk, etc. And it tends shirk being idolatry, and it tends to be more concentrated amongst them. People who are involved in clear worship of God in pure form, it tends to be less amongst them. When people are involved in sinful activities, it tends to be more amongst them, because it tends to encourage them to keep them in those activities.
So in other words, people that are God conscious, people that are striving to do the right thing, people that are striving to be at peace with the Creator, are less likely to be affected or deviated from the straight path.
They're less likely to be affected by the jinn, but they may still be affected. You see, of course, most of us have experienced before just coming to Islam, where all these thoughts go racing through our minds, all kinds of factors seem to happen around us trying to get us not to make that step. This is the last ditch effort, the evil forces of the jinn, etc., to try to keep us from making the step. Once you make the step, then they give up. They may come back at another point in time, if they feel that you are, because we have our ups and downs. We're not always, on a high, right? So, when we're in states of being down, they may swing into play and try to whisper some things in our hearts, or, in different ways to cause us to seek aid from other than Allah, to some form of idolatry. So it doesn't mean that once a person becomes a believer, automatically all these things cease. It may cease, it may continue with them for some time, as they strive to build themselves. Eventually it may stop. It may stop immediately, and it may come back again at another point in time. But the thing that the believer has to know is that these forces ultimately, are not greater than Allah. That he or she may be tested for periods of time by these kind of trials, but if they hold on firmly to their belief in Allah, ultimately they will defeat these.
So then, when the jinns attack a person, or when they possess a person, what can that person do? Take 2 aspirins and call the doctor in the morning? I mean, what can that person do to be relieved from this possession?
Okay, if a person is possessed, the first thing that they should do is that they should try to ensure that they are doing what they are supposed to be doing as far as the teachings of the religion go, the true teachings. One, they should insist on purity as much as possible. They should try to maintain a state of purity, that is making wudu, ablutions, whenever they try to maintain that state. Washing their hands, the face, the body, and so on, staying in this state, this preparatory state for worship, right? This is a state of purification. Try to maintain that state at all times.
Tahara?
Yes. Then, furthermore, one should make, extra prayers, and especially outside of the formal prayers, we call salah, the 5 times daily prayers. One should try to make extra prayers at night. One should read the Quran often, have the Quran read over them. There are certain prayers which the Prophet, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, gave as a means of
breaking such spells, but specifically the last two chapters of the Quran, known as Falaq and Nas. These two chapters were actually revealed to the Prophet, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, to break a spell which had affected the Prophet, cast by a magician, a person involved also, because magical spells affect people through the aid of the Jinn.
Can you recite that? Those two, please.
The two chapters which are recited, and they're called the Mu'awwadatan, that is, the two means of seeking refuge in God from evil. Right? The first of the two, called Surah Al-Falaq, it begins, A'udhu billahi min ash-shaytan ar-rajim, I seek refuge in the name of Allah from the evil Satan, the cursed Satan. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq. Say, I seek refuge in the Lord of the Dawn. Min sharri ma khalaq, from the evil of what has been created. Wa min sharri ghasiqin idha waqab, from the evil of the night when it falls. وَمِن شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ, and from the evil of the witches who blow on knots. وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدٍ, and from the evil of the envier when he or she is envious. The second chapter, قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ, I seek refuge in the Lord of mankind. Malik al-Nas, the king of mankind. Ilah al-Nas, the God of mankind. Min sharr al-waswas al-khannas, from the evil of the whisperer. Alladhi yuwaswisu fi sudur al-nas, who whispers into the hearts of men. Min al-jinnati wan-nas, from among the Jinn and among mankind.
Brother Bilal, what other set of instructions, ayats, chapters from the Quran can you cite to us in regards to this phenomenon for protection? How can someone protect himself or herself from these types of activities?
Well, the verse, which is verse number 255 from the second chapter of the Quran, known as Al-Baqarah, this verse, called the verse of the throne, or the verse of the footstool, has been recommended by the Prophet Muhammad, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, as a means also of protecting oneself from evil. And the text of the verse is as follows: Allahu la ilaha illahu, Allah, there is no God but He. Al-Hayyul Qayyum, the living, the eternal. La ta'khudhuhu sinatun wa la nawm, neither slumber nor sleep overtakes him. Lahu ma fi as-samawati wa ma fi al-ard, all that is in the heavens and the earth belong to him. Man dha alladhi yashfa'u 'indahu illa bi'idhnih, who can intercede on behalf of others to him except by his permission. يَعْلَمُ مَا بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَمَا خَلْفَهُمْ, He knows what is in front of them and what is behind them. وَلَا يُحِيطُونَ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنْ عِلْمِهِ إِلَّا بِمَا شَاءَ, they will not grasp any of his knowledge except what he wills. وَسِعَ كُرْسِيُّهُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ, his footstool extends over the heavens and earth. وَلَا يَؤُودُهُ حِفْظُهُمَا, And he is not made tired by governing them. وَهُوَ الْعَلِيُّ الْعَظِيمُ. He is the transcendent, the magnificent.
Okay. Brother Bilal,
I could also add that the making of the adhan, the Prophet, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, has stated that when the adhan